Fans cried over this heartbreaking news. Ben Shephard is known for his warmth, charm, and professionalism that has graced British television for over 2 decades. From hosting Tipping Point to Good Morning Britain, he has built a reputation as one of the most trusted and beloved presenters in the UK. Audiences admire his quick wit, his relatability, and his steady presence that feels like an old friend inviting you into the living room each day. But behind the cameras, away from the polished smiles and light-hearted banter, life held a very different script for Ben. For years, he faced a private struggle that he chose not to share with the world, one that tested his resilience, reshaped his priorities, and highlighted the profound role of his wife, Annie Shephard. This is not just the story of a television presenter overcoming a hidden battle. It is the story of love, sacrifice, and the quiet heroism that can exist within a marriage. It is about the strength of Annie, who became Ben's anchor during his darkest days. And while fans saw Ben as untouchable, the cheerful, unshakable man who could make contestants laugh and wake up the nation with ease, few knew that behind closed doors, he was facing a challenge that would forever change his perspective on life, work, and family. Before delving into his hidden battle, it's important to understand who Ben was to the public. For years, Ben was the golden boy of British broadcasting. His career began in the late 1990s, but he rose to prominence in the 2000s, becoming a familiar face on ITV. Whether it was game shows, morning television, or live events, he brought an effortless charm that resonated with viewers of all ages. He had the ability to make nervous contestants feel at ease, to inject humor into tense situations, and to handle live mishaps with a grin. That reliability and warmth made him one of ITV's most bankable stars. Off-screen, he was equally admired. Known as a devoted husband and father, Ben projected stability in a world often obsessed with scandal. Fans admired his marriage to Annie, which seemed unshaken by the pressures of fame. Together, they raised 2 sons, keeping family life grounded despite Ben's busy schedule. From the outside, it looked like the perfect picture: a successful career, a happy marriage, and a loving family. But as with many stories in life, appearances don't always tell the full truth. While Ben was hosting shows with his trademark enthusiasm, he was quietly dealing with an illness that weighed heavily on him. It wasn't the kind of headline-grabbing revelation one might expect from a television star. He didn't make an announcement, didn't invite cameras into hospitals, and didn't issue public statements. Instead, he made a choice: to protect his family, particularly Annie and their sons, from the scrutiny that often follows celebrity vulnerability. Close friends reveal that Ben began experiencing health challenges that left him physically drained. For someone so active and full of life, the sudden shift was difficult to accept. Yet rather than leaning into public sympathy, he carried on as if nothing was wrong. Annie, however, knew the truth. She was the one beside him during the late-night worries, the endless appointments, and the moments of doubt that few outsiders ever saw. While Ben carried the physical toll, Annie shouldered the emotional one. She is not someone who seeks the limelight. Unlike many partners of television stars, Annie has always preferred a private life, focusing on her family and her career away from the cameras. But when Ben's health began to falter, Annie made sacrifices few would ever know about. She rearranged her commitments, putting aside personal ambitions to be fully present. She became his quiet guardian, managing appointments, offering unwavering support, and most importantly, shielding their children from the full weight of what was happening. What makes her role so powerful is not just what she did, but how she did it, with grace, without complaint, and without ever seeking recognition. To the outside world, she was simply Ben's supportive wife. To Ben, she was the reason he was able to keep going. Maintaining privacy during such a time was no small feat. As a public figure, every detail of Ben's life was often scrutinized. Paparazzi waited outside studios, tabloids speculated endlessly about his personal life, and viewers felt a sense of ownership over his story. Yet Ben and Annie made a pact to keep their battle private. It wasn't about shame nor about denial. It was about love. They knew that the moment the news became public, it would no longer belong to them. Headlines would distort, commentators would speculate, and strangers would judge. And so they chose silence. Together, they built what close friends called a fortress, a safe space where they could lean on each other without interference. But even the strongest walls can be tested. As months turned into years, the burden of silence grew heavier. Ben was still working, still smiling on screen, but there were moments when the strain showed. Contestants who watched closely might have noticed a flicker of fatigue, a slight hesitation, but he always pushed through, never wanting to let others down. Behind closed doors, however, there were nights of fear, moments when Annie wondered if they would make it through. Yet in those darkest hours, their bond only deepened. Ben would later admit that Annie's presence was what kept him from giving up. He said quietly to a close friend, "She was my anchor. She carried me when I couldn't carry myself." Eventually, Ben made a decision. He realized that by staying silent, he was protecting his family, but he was also missing an opportunity to help others who might be going through the same thing. So he began to open up, not in a dramatic press conference, but in quiet conversations, in small steps, and finally in an interview that would surprise many. He didn't speak to seek sympathy. He spoke to inspire. He admitted that the journey reshaped how he viewed life. Fame no longer mattered in the way it once did. Success wasn't about ratings or awards. It was about waking up each day and being with his family. It was about gratitude for the small things, Annie's smile, his son's laughter, the quiet moments of ordinary life. And when he spoke, he made sure to give Annie the recognition she had never sought but always deserved. He said, "She's the reason I got through it. She was there every step of the way. I'll never be able to repay her for what she gave me." Ben's story struck a chord not because he is a television star, but because it is deeply human. We all face battles, though most of ours aren't played out under the harsh lights of fame. And we all rely on someone, a spouse, a partner, a friend, who becomes our anchor when life feels unbearable. For Ben, that person was Annie. She is the quiet hero of this story, the one who sacrificed silently so that he could heal. And in many ways, her silence was the greatest act of love. Today, Ben is still on our screens, but he is no longer the same man he once was. He has slowed down, choosing projects that matter rather than filling his diary with endless commitments. He spends more time with Annie and their children, cherishing the moments that once passed too quickly. He has learned the value of rest, of reflection, and of prioritizing the people that matter most. His message is clear. Success is fleeting, but love endures. When Ben's revelation finally became known, the response was overwhelming. Viewers who had watched him for years flooded social media with messages of support. Contestants from Tipping Point wrote about his kindness during filming, recalling moments when he put them at ease even while carrying his private struggle. Colleagues from ITV shared tributes, praising not just his professionalism, but his quiet bravery. But the loudest praise was reserved for Annie. Though she never sought recognition, the public saw her now for what she truly was, the backbone of Ben's journey. Ben Shephard's story is not just about illness or recovery. It is about resilience, faith, and the quiet strength that often goes unnoticed. It is about the sacrifices made in silence, the love that endures when everything else falls apart, and the gratitude that grows when life reminds us of what truly matters. And above all, it is about Annie, the woman who stood by him, who shielded him, and who carried him through the storm. For those watching, the lesson is universal. Life will test us, fame will fade, but love, steady, unwavering, and silent, will always be the greatest source of strength. If you found Ben and Annie's story as moving as we did, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Share this video to remind others of the power of love and resilience, because sometimes the most extraordinary stories come not from the spotlight, but from the quiet moments we rarely see. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more powerful stories coming your way.